I'm Tom Pollock. Welcome to the Startup Studio. Here we go. I'll be hosting today, which means I'm going to introduce our panels. We have 4 sessions this afternoon. We're going to start with the Startup Clinic, which is a panel discussion. I'll introduce the speakers in a moment. After that, we have Andrea Wade, who's going to be talking about AI startups, her own journey from founder through an exit to venture capitalist. We'll have a coffee break. Then the 2 sessions after the coffee break will be a startup funding clinic. We have a variety of different types of funders here on a panel hosted by Connor Meany from PwC, who does the startup and scale up tax advisory for PwC. So he'd be perfectly positioned to grill our investor panel. And then we'll close out with startup predictions from Sarah Clark, leader of the Digital Irish group that scales Irish startups into North America. She's also CEO of Intuition Americas Publishing. So firstly, a couple of housekeeping elements here. Your exits are over there and behind you. You can probably also go out into the stands if you need to and get out that way. We also have a Slido app. If you want to ask questions, and we encourage asking questions, you can use Slido. There's a code there, a number. It's going to be on every slide there, 309-4914. You just type that in, and it allows you to ask questions of the panelists, and I will facilitate that as well. We also have a subtitling functionality, so if you have trouble hearing or just want to watch subtitles on your phone, you can use the QR code there, and that will, you can go to that link, and that will provide you with a live transcription of what's being said. So I think that covers the housekeeping. Without further ado, we will bring up our Startup Clinic panelists, hosted by Stephen Bonney from AWS, and you can come on up here and take your seats. Stephen Bonney is here from AWS. He'll be chairing the panel. We have Colin Lewis representing the sort of marketing. We have Caitlin Hafer from HedgeHog Digital Skills, who is going to be our sort of startup version of the panelists. We have Alex Cornelius from the tax perspective and incentives for startups. But I will turn you over to Stephen now. Thanks.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm never quite sure whether it's better being after lunch when everyone's in a carbohydrate coma, or just before when everybody's starving. But look, it's nice to see y'all, and we're looking forward to having a quick chat. I guess by way of introductions, I'll begin. So Stephen Bonney is my name. I work for a company called AWS. Been there for about 5.5 years. I'm part of the team that runs the startup accelerator that we've done with Learnovation for the past 2 years. Caitlin beside me was part of that this year. Caitlin, do you want to say hello?
Hi everybody, I'm Caitlin Hafer. So I'm one of the co-founders of HedgeHog Financial Wellness. We teach financial literacy or financial wellness skills for 15 to 25-year-olds. That's the gist. We won the accelerator.
Congratulations. My name is Colin Lewis. I'm from founder of Retail Media Works. I advise retailers and brands around the world on their digital marketing, retail media strategies. But as my sort of, if you will, side hustle, one of the things I do is get to work with a lot of startups on their positioning and go-to-market strategy. So to a certain extent, that's what I'm talking about today. But I also have my own experience on that topic to bring to the fore.
Hi everybody, I'm Alex Cornelius, Director of R&D Tax Solutions. I'm a tax advisor of 15 years, starting off in the Big Four. I've run my own business for the last 5 years, and we've been in Ireland for the last year. Very much a startup in that sense in Ireland, and we advise SMEs and large businesses on availing R&D tax credits and knowledge development box, so that full range of innovation incentives.
Okay, kind of the first topic we want to have a little conversation about is, as a startup, trying to find ways of differentiating yourselves from your competition can be an iterative process. It's something that you kind of have to focus on all the time and trying to find edges. Colin, would you like to talk us through a little bit of, your market and where you see that as a challenge, and, how do you guys deal with it as an organization?
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of have two prongs of that aspect. We have to differentiate ourselves not only for the student user, why is this going to be better than the budgeting talk that they've heard 500 times, and also for the educator provider. So say we're working with credit unions right now, how do we differentiate ourselves from the government provided, generally free resources that are available for something that they are going to have to pay for. So we've been looking a lot on the student side about how do we make things applicable to their everyday life, really giving them something that they can practice, something that they can apply immediately. How do we make it something that they can fine tune to themselves, they can have a lot of control over? And similarly, actually, on the provider side as well, giving them the option to fine-tune things, to customize the content, to customize the look, to have something that looks and feels like their own versus the thing that everybody has seen everywhere else.
And Alex, as a kind of a new entry to the Irish market, is that something that you guys are focused on, kind of analysing the landscape, understanding, your competition, and finding ways to be different? And
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of did our market research within Ireland for probably the best part of a year. So within our sector, tax advisory, we spoke to quite a large market of accountants. I've obviously got an awareness of the tax advisory market as a result of some of my prior work, but a lot of it was seeing what the potential opportunity was and really finding the niche. Having a deep technical knowledge within a specialist area was really key for us, and certainly within Ireland, it was very clear very early on, tax advisory isn't really existent. There's not a huge amount of proactive tax advisory. No one really likes dealing with accountants or tax advisors. No one really likes dealing with revenue, and that was a big one. So being able to come in somewhere, seeing a market opportunity and dealing with people's issues and problems has been great for us, and we've seen a lot of traction with seeing a slightly different approach to dealing with revenue.
Really insightful. Colin, from your experience in dealing with kind of, startups and the broader picture, you're dealing with lots of different companies. What are the trends and the things that you're seeing in that space?
Well, one thing I want to do is just frame it for everybody, which is, first of all, you always have to position, or at least be distinctive in the end consumer or target customer's mind. And the reason is humans, by our very nature, are always trying to sort you into something, into an existing box. So traps to fall into, which we all, including myself, as a nominal expert in this topic, is I have no competition. Okay. Yeah, did everybody hear that? I have no competition. If you find yourself saying that, then you're delusional. So I have no competition. Never say that, because if you find that, it's got a problem. Number one. Number two is you've got to think in terms of the context. And the context is much more important as he grapples for his phone. This is the portal to the universe for everybody. And so whatever thing you're talking about has to somehow fit into that portal to the universe. And so this is why positioning is even more important, because it fits on a 3 centimeter by 4 centimeter screen. And thirdly, related to that, is we're all kind of busy, we're all swiping and thumbing and so on. So that's why positioning is even more important than it was 10 years ago, because you want to be able to pass the sort of like the pub test, which is I meet Jeff in the pub, and Jeff asks me what I do, and I go, well, let me tell you about what I do. So it's like because the person positions it in their mind. Yeah, so Alex did a good job there of, here's what I do, and you will remember it. That's the key takeaway. It's the trap we all fall into. No, you got to get your positioning and your messaging right, and it's got to be able to be done through a little portal that we all carry around, and you got to pass the pub test as well.
Alex, you touched on the fact that you've recently come into Ireland as kind of a new market. How do you formulate your thought process on when is the right timing to focus on new markets? What's the planning that comes in before you do it, and ultimately how do you decide to make the investment and to and to move into a new market?
To be honest with you, I regret not doing it sooner. I think if you, particularly within Ireland, if you've got an exportable product, there is so much investment that will be thrown your way. Coming into Ireland in a new market, if we'd come in maybe 4 years ago, we'd be absolutely flying by now. It took a lot of market research, took quite a bit of courage, if I'm being honest. It's a big leap to go into a new jurisdiction and try somewhere new. But I really do wish that we'd come across earlier, because there's an amazing framework within Ireland, especially within innovation for SMEs, for big business. And you see a lot of these businesses that do incredibly well that have come out of Ireland. Look at Tynes, for example. They spent 2 years building a product in automation workflows, and all of a sudden they're in Boston, and they've done that in 2 years, and sky's the limit now. 100 million funding rounds going through. The sooner the better, I would say.
Big AWS customer, just saying.
Stephen, can I take a point here, which is just a thought for everybody, which, kind of like Alex is saying, wish I'd done it earlier. Back in the day, when I was like 10 years old, about 15 years ago, okay, I worked for a company called Iona Technologies. Does anybody remember Iona Technologies from back in the day? Yeah. So they were the kind of poster child, one of the first big ones to float on the NASDAQ in the late 90s. And what was interesting, the office was about 100 meters that way. And what was very interesting, and I had not worked in software and come into the business, and the thing that really blew me away is they had no customers in Ireland at all, and their immediate thing was, I'm getting on a plane to the US. That was how they thought about the world. They did not think about Ireland whatsoever. And in the business that I've set up over the last couple of years, I don't have any clients in Ireland, exception when I do this kind of startup thing. Yeah? And the first thing I always say is, get on a plane and talk to people. So as a result, guess what? I have clients in Australia, New Zealand, Latin America. I was just in Central America last week, but no clients in Ireland other than the startup guys I work for. So you don't wait like Alex did, get on the plane and do it, because there's plenty of room and lots of people want to talk to you.
And Caitlin, from your perspective, I know you're earlier in your journey than some others, but like, how do you guys see it? Is it a case of, make your mistakes in Ireland, refine the product, and then go to the bigger international markets? And how transferable is the services and solutions that HedgeHog provides?
So we're lucky. A ledger is a ledger, no matter what language you're working in. It's been the same for thousands of years, so it's quite transferable in terms of the information that we provide. The structure is kind of best practices, so the translation is really only in the language and some details. We've been pretty quick to say we need to start looking at people outside of Ireland. So we started running pilots with TYs here in Ireland last year. They were easily to access. They're right here, and TY is pretty open-ended of a year structurally. And then immediately, pretty much actually 3/4 of the way through those pilots, started talking to, okay, let's talk to somebody in France, let's talk to somebody in the UK, let's get this tested outside as soon as possible so that we can be outside of Ireland as quickly as possible, or exporting from Ireland as quickly as possible, and know right away if this actually doesn't translate. Is there something that's drastically different in terms of the market structure or the learning structure, or something that we don't even know yet? That is going to make that harder, or that needs more development. So.
Very good. And then in terms of, just to kind of keep on that point, I guess, as you move into new markets and kind of discover, I guess, new requirements and new challenges, like iterating on your solutions and your products, like how do you continually focus in on, finding the new edge, the better edge, the new solution to the problem?
Yeah, I think we're a small team. There's only 3 of us. Which kind of makes it easier to figure out what to focus on, because we only have one dev resource and he can only do so much. He does a lot, but it's only so much. So he's pretty good about saying, well, David, who's here as well, we'll come up with a design or a feature, and he'll say, yeah, no, that's going to take way too much time. How do we narrow it down? How do we cut it down? Let's get it to just that core thing that we're testing, which sometimes means we print something out on a piece of paper and put it in front of a bunch of 15-year-olds and see what happens. So we have this in-person aspect of what we do right now that has been a really useful test bed to then see, what do we actually need to build digitally? Will it work in theory? If it doesn't work in theory in person, it's definitely not going to work digitally.
Yeah.
I think the thing on the iteration piece is something I've been thinking about for a last while. If you take, say, what you're working in, it's a dynamic space and it's changing a lot. But Alex's space isn't moving that a lot. You know, double-edged accounting, what did they call it? Has been around for 8 centuries, or whatever the case is. Accounting rules and that sort of world change.
Death and taxes.
Yeah, death and tax. It doesn't change that much, if you will, yeah? So you can kind of put things together and go, it's going to be roughly the same in a year's time. You can make some sort of plans. But if you're working with, like what I do on digital side of things, working with retailers and working with brands, there's literally no way I can say what I'm currently doing is going to be relevant in a year's time. I just have to sort of like, fingers crossed, hope for the best. And what I'm finding is I have to question myself, because obviously I want to, believe that what I'm doing is going to be right for the next couple of years. But then equally I have to go, well, maybe the market is going to change and the thing that I'm selling is going to change as well. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, yeah? So the iteration piece is important. Is your business, is your market, the target market, a business that's going to change quite a lot, yeah? Whereas in Alex's case, what's going to change is the legal framework, not what we're doing, which is when we're selling into a retailer, the tech that they need a year ago is not relevant anymore. And obviously some of the things we're competing against is artificial intelligence, which is not even comparable from 6 months ago. So think about your market in that, how much iteration is real. And by the way, that just then bleeds into the positioning, because guess what? You might need to be flexible on that as well.
Can I add to that as well?
Yeah, of course.
So you were talking about that changing media landscape, which, because we work with 15 to 25-year-olds, is changing quickly and not something that anybody in our team is in. We're not under 25, sadly. But so that's one of the areas that we have running alongside the customer-facing or the user-facing aspects of how do we monitor that, how do we stay on top of that, so that we can be developing content. So that's where the AI side of what we do comes in, so that we can be developing content that addresses this new trend, this new FinTalk, which is a word that I hate that exists, FinTalk scam that's come out, and how do we make something that we can address that quickly so that we're being preventative as opposed to being just sort of chasing after trends, chasing after the harm that's already been done. So it's a fun space to be in.
And also, you can't necessarily believe yourself either, because obviously your own subjective view of the world. I'm not on TikTok, so don't go searching for me on TikTok, kind of thing. But I also am not on Instagram, and so how do I, kind of imagine a world that I'm not part of?
And it's different than mine.
And mine's different, yeah. So the portal idea is well worth thinking about, because your portal to the universe is different to my portal to the universe.
It's an interesting topic that you're seeing the kind of era of smartphones and, this new generation where they've grown up with a world of information in their hand. There's no encyclopedias, there's no books, there's information and it's immediately available. I guess that presents a challenge for businesses nowadays, and their consumer behaviors are really changing and they're pivoting. Alex, I'd be interested to hear, your industry is obviously slightly different, but, how are you seeing that next generation and, their willingness to engage and look at these kind of technologies?
It's really interesting. So within the kind of the tax and accountancy space, things have changed quite dramatically over a short space of time. There are lots of new companies coming to market in terms of making tax digital. So automation of those boring processes that you do every year, your self-assessment tax return. And there's been a huge investment in technology in getting that right. But then at the same time, what we're also seeing is you've got these great technologies coming into place which are really helping industry, helping accountancy firms, helping individuals. But then there becomes a gap when it comes to actual training of new staff. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very difficult now. We're finding it quite interestingly difficult to get good graduates coming out and getting the training right and the talent right for these individuals coming through. Within accountancy space, there's still a lot to be said for face-to-face time in terms of training. But when you've got a generation that are used to immediacy of hybrid working, it's very, very difficult to get the training and the content right. And coming here today, it's really interesting speaking to lots of businesses within that ed tech space who are utilising that hybrid of being able to do that training element online, away from the office, but then also bringing it back in again. I've had some really good conversations today, actually, with companies that are trying that blend of the two, and it's going to be really important for us, particularly going forward with our talent pool.
Caitlin, you're probably at the the closest edge to this, where you're going in, you're having conversation with these these younger kids, and if they don't believe you, they're challenging you with their smartphone. So like, are you seeing that, and are you experiencing that as well, where the generation of information at their fingertips, and what do you know?
Yeah, definitely, and we use it to our advantage. So our feeling from the start has been, can't beat them, join them. So when we come in to do a workshop with students, everything that we structure says, here's a framework, work within it however you want. So we'll give them a task to do. They can use their phone to look it up. They can chat GPT it. They can whatever other thing they're using, I don't care, so long as they get the task done in the time that we give them. So it's a lot of saying, hey, let's take advantage of the fact that there is no single source of truth. One of the big things that we harp on is that critical thinking, that going out and finding information that's useful to you and that fits with what you want to believe. And so if I'm standing up and saying, no, I'm the single source of truth on this, then we're going against what we profess to want to teach and the structure we want to teach in. So yeah, we figured they're going to have the phones. We better teach them how to use the phones in a way that's going to be beneficial to them and to think critically about what's coming out of the phone at them as well.
Really interesting. And Colin, from your perspective, in probably to more towards the retail experience, like what are the challenges that you're seeing in that space from a like the purchasing cycles, how people think about buying, what are the things you're seeing in that space with the kind of latest generation?
There's one thing to note is that the line I use when I do some keynotes in this is the world is flat. In other words, the experience that we have here of, I don't know, everybody's on their phone, I can order an app and deliver stuff on Deliveroo, and I can rent a bike and I can all that sort of stuff. That's endemic everywhere in the world. So I've been lucky enough to go to Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Costa Rica, like all across Europe in the last 18 months. And you look out the window, I can get an Uber. So the world is flat. Everybody's doing the same thing and seeing the world, but through this portal on your phone. And so therefore, in most organizations, large and small, retailers, brands, whatever the case is, there's a tension between the old way of doing things and how that can be done, and the new way of doing things, like what Alex is talking about, actually how you articulated, is the same problem for everywhere. There's a lot of new tech coming in, and getting in the door with legacy businesses is quite hard, because within the businesses, those legacy businesses some people want them in, and they want this innovation, they want it to happen. And then on the other side, there's those who are resisting things because this is how we do things. And certain industries, like, let's talk about something I know pretty much nobody here will know about, is the motor car parts business, which in the UK is a £10 billion business. And I just happen to know a small bit about it. There's people in those jobs for 30 years. In retail, there's people in those jobs for 30 years. They don't want the world to change. And so we, as we target our markets, have to find those who are up for innovation and up for ideas. And looking for that, which actually there's a point which I want to say, because I'll forget it otherwise, because you touched on it, Caitlin, which is how can we reach the kids? How can we get in front of people? And I was doing this work with Unilever, and the lady was the head of learning and development for Europe, something like that, and she was talking away, and I was like, listen to what she said, and she said one sentence that I was like, I need to remember that. She said, we at Unilever are a social first organization. In other words, social media first. And so they've completely reinvented their model from a TV driven model where we do large scale TV campaigns and then we execute and then you buy through the store. Yep. Her line was, social first, conversion everywhere. Now, what does that mean in English? In other words, we are going to reach our customers through influencers, through the social media screen, and conversion everywhere means that if they want to buy on Amazon, that's okay. If they want to buy on SuperValu, that's okay. If they want to buy from TikTok Shop, that's okay as well. TikTok Shop, by the way, is the 4th largest retailer, gone from 0 in 18 months. So it's the 4th largest retailer in 18 months. So social first, conversion everywhere. So in your way of going to market, think about how you can use social media, which in your cases mostly will be LinkedIn, but possibly might be other tools as well. And how does that work? And I'd go one step extra. It's not just social first, it's video first, short form video first, and then engage with them anywhere, which is a radical change from 3 years ago. Like a radical change from 3 years ago. I don't do any outbound marketing whatsoever. I only do social media, and I'm too busy for words. I don't do any outbound, zero. You'll never receive anything outbound from me. I never phone anybody. I never get in touch with anybody at all. Zero.
Really interesting. From the world we're in today, where there's such a requirement for your products and solutions to change, to move at a pace, and to develop, and people are always looking for the next thing. Talent is underlining all of that, and your people. Probably a question for you, Alex, is how do you keep the talent you have? Like, I know, I work for one of the large tech companies in Dublin, and we know how competitive the marketplace is to kind of go and get and retain people. Like, what are you doing as a company to focus in on that and to continue to nurture the people you have?
Yeah, I guess it's ensuring that the work is interesting, but at the same time taking people along for the journey as well. So making sure that we're not a particularly big business in Ireland. There's 6 of us at the moment. Everybody gets involved in every decision. We do continuous roundtabling. Myself and my business partner sat down literally last week. We put together an innovation canvas. That innovation canvas sits as what is the current scope looking like for 2026? Here's our opportunity, here's the solution, here's the execution. We sat down, we compared notes. They were both completely different. And you're thinking to yourselves, oh Jesus, are we doing something wrong here? But actually no, when we went into it and we looked at the markers where we had differences, actually when we had a conversation and we brought the team in to talk about it, we actually were reasonably aligned. We were just looking at things from a different angle. So to answer the question, I think it is bringing people along for the journey, constant conversation and communication, ensuring that everybody's goals aligned, and also incentivizing staff as well. We work in a way in which people are incentivized. It's very transparent and it's very clear. And so as long as there's that transparency and clarity, there's never any room for arguments. Everybody knows their goals. Everybody knows their progress journey, their development plan. And for us, that's working really nicely as a business so far.
Really good. Caitlin, from your perspective as a startup, right? So you're at the stage where, I know you guys, so I know there's, a small team, but as you're kind of going to develop and scale, how are you going to, excuse me, how are you going to focus on, the people that you bring into the organization? How do you make sure they're the right fit and they have the skills and the knowledge to help you guys move on?
This is a big question that we've been having recently. So the current plan, I'll give you that, is first on our side to really make sure that we structure the information that they get, so that if we do find somebody who we think is a great fit, who we think is going to work well with the team, who has the skills, they have everything that they need to succeed in a way that isn't a resource drain for us to onboard them. So this has been a big part. On the other side too, in terms of bringing in talent, I think it's been a lot about being really clear too on what we want from them. We've not hired anybody in, but we've had a few consultant teams come in to do different things. And what we've seen from kind of the first time we did it to the more recent times is the clarity of the information we give them, and the goals that we set, and how good the quality is that then we get back. It's just a one-to-one. So it's really setting up the structure on our side, more so than going, we have to find that one perfect person who's out there somewhere. It's more saying, hey, we have a good structure, we have a good system, we can slot 50% of the people or 75% of the people in, and then it becomes more about skill and do you function with the team versus you have to be perfect.
Good. And Colin, what do you see in your kind of consulting work with?
You know the scene in that movie, The Exorcist, where her head goes to full 360? That's what's happening to me right now. Well, not right now, but when I hear somebody say there's a talent shortage, I just literally I want to go postal. Because this accusation has been said for, I don't know, my whole career. And yet, I come around loads of people who are looking for a good job, who are really incredible, and then I hear people on the other side going, oh, no, we can't get good staff. I'm like, that's a bit of a gap here, first of all. Second is there's a different kind of game in startups, obviously, compared to, say, and that broad generalization I just made was really around larger companies. Yeah. So the way to think about this is there's talent everywhere, but you're looking for it in the wrong places, or you're thinking about it in the wrong places. For the most part, and you haven't made this error, but for the most part, what people are looking for is the perfect. They're looking for the Messiah. Yeah, the Messiah comes in and you're going to save them. Yeah, they're looking for the Messiah, or they're looking for the perfect petal who's just perfectly rounded and formed, who can do everything. They can do Google AdWords, they can do Facebook, they can do dancing for TikTok, they can write content, they can you can do the accounts in their spare time as well. Yeah, and you'll see this in the job specs because they're like 20 pages long. And like, yeah, you can't get anybody, Alex. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, 10 years AI experience, 20 years crypto experience, salary for 25 grand. Yeah, this is endemic across the world.
Do you have their CV?
Yeah, it's my CV. It's everywhere across the world. So there's a fantastic book by a guy called Tyler Cowen called Talent, and he has some really cool stuff on it. But the way to think about it is, what you're looking for is, well, you've touched on this, is what's called a batteries included person. A person who wants to solve problems and be part of the thing and is up for it. Yeah, number one, batteries included person. Number two is they ask a question, they give some suggested questions in this interview process, and it's really cool. They ask the question, how many tabs have you got open on your browser right now, and what's in the tabs? Yeah, because it's the sign of how curious and interested a person you are. Because you want a curious person and an interested person. If you have I've got, the Daily Mail open, and I've got my Instagram feed on, well, you're not a very interesting person. You're telling you what sort of thing you are. So there's a series of ways of actually sorting out wheat from the chaff. Because as I think it's the guy who wrote Amp It Up said, you've got to hire ahead of yourself. So you've got to hire somebody who's not the perfect petal, but the person who could become the perfect petal, but not that person. So you're going to always have to take somebody who doesn't have all the skills. I finished on my rant, it's okay.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You can rant as well, it's okay.
Rant. One other thing too that we've seen with hiring or being the person hired, and that's something we've noted in our process, is on the flip side of that, not being afraid to hire somebody who's better than you at the job. My feeling is always, if I'm better at you than doing it, why am I hiring you to do it? So hiring somebody in to say yeah, I'm not good at that, you go do that, so I can go over here and do the thing that I am good at. And I think not having that fear, ego, whatever it is, to be able to say you're better at this than me, you do it, and I'll pay you.
Nice.
Badly.
25 grand, 20 years.
20 years crypto, I'm sure. Alex, I guess just to finish out on that question with yourself, what do you see as the skills that are most desirable as an employer nowadays? What are the things that you're looking for when you're going to market to try and fill a position?
We've really pivoted. So initially when looking at hiring new talent, we were looking at experience. So we wanted people who were ready-made to come in and be able to hit the ground running. And there's become a realization that doesn't exist. And actually, we're starting to look at hiring graduates now. We want to be able to undertake the training and actually mold somebody into the advisor that we want them to be. Have those soft skills to go out to businesses, really understand that business and get into it. And the stuff that we do from an accountancy perspective, that is book learned, that will come. But actually, the soft skills are the hard bit, and actually bringing somebody in who's fresh out of university, fresh out of college, even fresh out of school, can absolutely come into a business and add real value. And sometimes that's a lot easier, and you get a lot more out of it than somebody who has maybe gone and worked somewhere for a long period of time, and they've got their own ideas as to how they should act and how they should be in front of clients, but actually that's not good for your business, because that's not how you want to approach it. So I think looking at young generation coming through and new talent is certainly a way that we're starting to look at the market.
And final little question for you all. If you were to be able to go back in time 5 years and give yourself a piece of advice, what would that be? Other than, obviously investing in Nvidia and things like that. But like real practical world advice, what do you think you'd try and give yourself? And apologies for springing this one on you all.
Eat less nachos. No?
Mine would be to be more brave.
Okay.
I actually think that I'm an accountant. Everything that I do is meticulous, and constantly all I'm thinking of is margin and what that means and cash flow, and it's a terrible outlook at sometimes. And actually you see some of these businesses that have gone boom, and really actually understanding whether your idea is boom or bust early is a good thing. So actually going, and I've seen we work with loads of startup clients, and some of them I'm looking at and I'm thinking, I don't think you're going to be my client in 2 years. But sometimes I'm surprised, and it's unbelievable seeing some businesses really rocket. So the advice I'd give myself would be more brave, go overseas earlier, invest all your cash, don't worry too much about it. There is always tomorrow. Obviously, tuck a bit away. I am an accountant, don't be silly. But certainly don't be afraid to take the risk and take the leap.
And Colin, other than, don't eat that nachos.
Anyway, nachos, yeah, every night and every day. It's actually Alex's point, just framed in my own language, which is ambition. And most of the problem I see today with myself and with is it's not a lack of ambition. It's like that, because that sounds like a negative thing. It's like be ambitious, because the world is a much smaller place than you think, and you can think bigger and execute easier than ever in the history of the world, and literally in the history of the world, because you can get on a Zoom with somebody from the far end of the world like in 30 minutes, and that would never happen in the history of the world. So be ambitious, and be more ambitious than you currently are, because at the moment, whatever ambition you think you have, it's a smaller ambition. And I'm quite an ambitious person, and I look back and go, oh my God, what a clown. Yeah, I was just thinking too small. You're always thinking too small. Always.
I think, so our team started working together about 6 years ago on a different project, and it crashed and burned. But we learned a lot from everything that went wrong on that project. So I think we messed up a lot, but I would say to everybody, screw up more, because you learn so much more from something going badly than from it going well. And every reason why HedgeHog is going well now is because, I'm gonna curse, we fucked something up before, and now we did it differently. And so just screw up a lot. What's the worst that could happen?
Very good. Tom, do we have any questions on Slido for the group? And if we don't, I'd encourage you all to jump on. If you've got questions and you want to ask the panel anything to use it.
We have just one where somebody's asking about the title of the book that Colin mentioned on talent. What was the
It's a Talent by Tyler Cowan, Cowan. He's a bit annoying, to be honest with you, but the book is excellent in terms of, and he talks a lot. He's done a lot of podcasts, and he's really annoying on a podcast. But the basic principles, what he said, is really excellent. He says there's talent everywhere in the world. It's how you're thinking about it. And we are coming from an industrial age thinking in terms of hiring and talent. And that's not, as these guys have just pointed out, that's not where it's at today. And you have an incredible capacity as a smaller business not to have all these stupid legacy systems. What about my nachos recipe? Does it
I mean, you can put it up.
It's good. Like
every night and every day. Okay, guys, look, just to say thank you very much for giving your time and sharing your experiences and your knowledge with the room today. It's greatly appreciated. And if you could give them all a round of applause.